Imagine a quiet family lunch, a seemingly innocent gathering meant to bring loved ones closer. But what if that meal, meticulously prepared, held a sinister secret? What if, concealed within a seemingly delicious dish, lay a deadly poison, intended to extinguish lives? This is not fiction. This is the chilling reality that has gripped Australia, a nation left reeling by the shocking verdict in the Erin Patterson mushroom murder trial. For months, the world watched, captivated by the unfolding drama, the intricate web of evidence, and the desperate pleas of innocence. Today, the curtain has fallen, and the answer reverberates across the globe: guilty. The Supreme Court of Victoria has delivered its judgment, finding Erin Patterson guilty on 3 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. This verdict marks the culmination of a 9-week trial, a legal marathon that laid bare the agonizing final hours of 3 innocent lives and the desperate fight for survival of a 4th. It was a case built on forensic science, digital footprints, and the heartbreaking testimony of a survivor, all painting a grim picture of a meticulously planned act. The silence in the Morwell courtroom was palpable as the jury's unanimous decision was read, sealing the fate of the woman at the center of one of Australia's most perplexing and horrifying true crime sagas. How did a simple family lunch turn into a tragedy of such monumental proportions? And what does this verdict mean for a nation grappling with the depths of such a betrayal? The story begins in the picturesque, tranquil setting of Leongatha, a small town in Victoria's Gippsland region. On July 29, 2023, Erin Patterson hosted a lunch at her home. The guests were her estranged husband's parents, Don and Gail Patterson, both aged 70, and Gail's sister, Heather Wilkinson, 66. Heather's husband, Ian Wilkinson, a 68-year-old Baptist pastor, also attended. It was a seemingly ordinary Sunday, a chance for family to reconnect, perhaps to mend strained ties. The centerpiece of the meal was a beef Wellington, a dish often associated with celebratory occasions. Little did the guests know, this meticulously prepared meal harbored a deadly secret. Within hours of consuming the meal, all 4 guests began to experience severe gastrointestinal symptoms, intense vomiting, diarrhea, and stomach cramps. The symptoms rapidly escalated, leading to their urgent hospitalization. Don and Gail Patterson, along with Heather Wilkinson, succumbed to their illnesses within days, their bodies ravaged by the potent toxins. Ian Wilkinson, against all odds, fought for his life for months in the hospital, miraculously surviving the ordeal, though forever bearing the scars of that fateful day. Medical experts quickly identified the culprit: death cap mushrooms, Amanita phalloides, one of the world's most poisonous fungi, responsible for 90% of all toxic mushroom-related fatalities. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community and soon, the entire nation. How could such a deadly ingredient find its way into a family meal? The investigation that followed was intense and far-reaching. Police immediately honed in on Erin Patterson, the person who prepared and served the meal. While Patterson maintained her innocence, claiming the inclusion of the death cap mushrooms was a tragic accident, prosecutors meticulously built a case suggesting deliberate intent. Key evidence presented during the 9-week trial painted a disturbing picture. Forensic experts testified that samples from the leftover beef Wellington tested positive for death cap mushroom toxins. Crucially, the court heard that Patterson herself did not suffer the severe illness that afflicted her guests, a fact she attributed to an eating disorder that caused her to vomit after the meal. However, this claim was challenged by the prosecution. Digital forensics played a pivotal role. The court heard evidence about Patterson's online search history, revealing queries related to death cap mushrooms and their effects. Prosecutors alleged that Patterson had also disposed of a food dehydrator shortly after the fatal lunch and had repeatedly reset her mobile phone. These actions, they argued, were attempts to conceal evidence and cover her tracks. Furthermore, a crucial piece of testimony came from Ian Wilkinson, the sole survivor, who recalled that Erin Patterson ate from a different colored plate than her guests, a detail the prosecution used to suggest she intentionally avoided consuming the poisoned portion. The jury also heard about alleged strained relations between Patterson and her estranged husband, Simon Patterson, and her past frustrations with his parents, though prosecutors did not offer a definitive motive for the killings. They argued that a motive was not necessary to prove intent. The defense, led by barrister Colin Mandy SC, vigorously argued that the poisonings were a catastrophic accident. Patterson took the witness stand for 8 days, the only witness called by the defense, tearfully maintaining her innocence. She admitted to lying during police interviews about foraging for mushrooms and owning a dehydrator, explaining that these were panic-driven responses as she realized the horrific consequences of her meal. Patterson stated she had bought mushrooms from both a supermarket and an Asian grocery store, and possibly mixed them, unknowingly including the deadly fungi. She denied intentionally foraging for death cap mushrooms or knowing they were in the beef Wellington. Her defense team emphasized that there was no logical motive for her to harm her estranged husband's family, particularly her children's grandparents, whom she described as loving and supportive. They highlighted her seemingly stable life, with a new home, financial comfort, and plans to study nursing. The defense questioned the chain of custody for the food samples, suggesting potential contamination or improper handling that could have influenced the forensic results. They implored the jury to consider the lack of a clear motive in Patterson's favor, arguing that such a heinous act would require a strong, identifiable reason. For 7 grueling days, the jury of 7 men and 5 women deliberated, sifting through the voluminous evidence, the conflicting testimonies, and the legal complexities of the case. They had to determine whether Erin Patterson knew the meal contained death cap mushrooms and, crucially, whether she intended for her guests to die. The gravity of their task was immense, as the unanimous verdicts required for each of the 4 charges would determine a woman's future and provide closure for a grieving family. The public watched with bated breath, the mushroom murder trial dominating headlines and conversations across Australia. The small rural town of Morwell, where the Supreme Court trial was held, became a focal point, drawing media and curious onlookers, creating a phenomenon described as dark tourism. And then, the call came. The jury had reached a verdict. In a packed courtroom, where even members of the public lined up for hours to witness history, the foreman delivered the unanimous decision. Guilty on 3 counts of murder. Guilty on 1 count of attempted murder. Erin Patterson, who sat between 2 prison officers, showed little emotion beyond a rapid blinking of her eyes as the words that sealed her fate were read aloud. The victims' families, who had endured months of harrowing testimony, were finally given an answer, though one that could never truly alleviate their profound loss. The quiet town of Leongatha, and indeed the entire nation, absorbed the weight of the judgment. Justice, in the eyes of the court, had been served. Erin Patterson now faces the prospect of life in prison. She will be sentenced at a later date, a process that will undoubtedly bring further scrutiny and public attention. The case has not only shone a spotlight on the dangers of foraging wild mushrooms but also raised profound questions about human nature, betrayal, and the hidden darkness that can sometimes lurk beneath a seemingly ordinary facade. The tragic deaths of Don and Gail Patterson, and Heather Wilkinson, will forever serve as a somber reminder of that horrific lunch. The survival of Ian Wilkinson stands as a testament to resilience, but also as a living echo of the terror inflicted upon him and his loved ones. As Australia grapples with the aftermath of this shocking verdict, the story of the Leongatha mushroom murders will undoubtedly be etched into the nation's collective memory, a cautionary tale of a meal that cost 3 lives and irrevocably altered countless others. The ramifications of this trial extend beyond the courtroom, touching on societal trust, the legal system, and the enduring fascination with true crime that leaves us questioning what truly happened that day in July. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated with the latest breaking stories.